Hey, I want to thank you for listening to today's podcast. I'm not sure how you found us, but I want to let you know that we have made it as easy as possible for you to find, follow, and share this podcast with as many people as possible. All you have to do is type in Community Solutions, and we're in the Apple iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, we're on Spotify, and as usual, you can find it out on YouTube or by going directly to podbabble.com, the great podcast network that we're part of. So go out there and go nuts, because the more that you share this information, the greater opportunity that you have to change your community. So thank you again for listening. Now let's get back to the show.
Can I get you a taxi home? It sure was grand. When I come back here next year, I want to see you again. What's your name, little girl? What's your name? This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, bringing it to you full force for another week of bad news.
Yeah,
What?
of course, always bad news. I've heard that song.
Yes, I'm sure you have.
I don't know.
It's a little Leonard Skinner right there.
Leonard Skinner?
Yes.
Because, they misspell it. I just don't know if they know they misspell it.
I'm sure they do.
Oh, do they?
I don't know.
Well, a couple of them are long since dead. I mean, there was the famous plane crash. I saw it on VH1. Used to have a show called Behind the Music, and I used to enjoy watching that. And I saw the Behind the Music on the, I'll think of his name, don't tell me, Van Zant something.
Yes.
Yeah, Ronnie.
Yes,
right?
Ronnie Van Zant, yeah.
So he was only 30-something years. He's pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
Way too young to go. The good ones always seem to go young, don't they?
That means I'll be around forever.
I'll be around longer than forever. Forever might be redefined. And yes, another week of bad news is one way to put it.
Yeah?
This is another show that we got a few things in the local lowdown, and then we jump into what we're doing. It's another show that my guess is going to make some people pretty upset. I mean, it makes me really upset because and we'll get into it in a sec, but I'm a history buff, and I've got an appreciation for our founding documents and the people who wrote them, as flawed human beings as they may have been. What's going on now is outrageous, out of control, makes me want to throw up, among other things. And, I mean, it's almost as bad as talking about the Eden Prairie City Council.
Oh, boy. Which, if you didn't hear that recently, that was probably last week's podcast, that you need to go back and listen to that one. Oh, boy.
I go off on a tangent or two.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was actually 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago?
Yep, that would have been 2 weeks ago. So that one, 69.
Doesn't matter because
69.
you folks listen to them all anyway. So
it was a very fun podcast for us to do, not so much to study.
You and I had fun. We always have fun here. I mean, because the day this stops being fun is the day I quit doing it.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to have fun even if it's not fun what we're discussing.
That's the only way to do it.
Speaking of that,
yes,
the old Sun Post, which of course I don't get anymore.
Right.
Living in Plymouth now, I don't get the old Crystal Robbinsdale version. And speaking of Robbinsdale, one of our favorite cities, of course.
Yes.
Used to be a great
It's lovely
city.
this time of year in Robbinsdale.
Yeah, well, used to be a great city. I don't know how great it is now, but has got some TIFF, one of our favorites. We haven't covered TIFF as much as we probably should.
Right.
In a year and a half on this show. It's one of those things that probably half the people who vote for it don't understand it, don't understand how it works, couldn't explain it to you if you dropped a grenade in their shorts. They still couldn't explain it to you.
Well,
and it's not easy. I mean, But you vote to spend millions of dollars, and when you talk about it, you talk like a total moron.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, my God, I mean, who are we electing here? Well, Robbinsdale has approved $2.5 million in tax increment financing for a redevelopment plan. This is from the Sun Post, the June 28th issue. For the area around 3735 Lakeland Avenue, which will be known as Birdtown Flats. It is currently being purchased by the Beard Group Corp. They are a monster. They already own another house on the land. Why they can't get financing, I don't understand it. But the development is, of course, high density housing.
Yep.
152 unit market rate apartments. Now, what brand new development sells at a market rate?
Right.
I've never heard of that before.
No, neither have I.
Unless it's subsidized.
Mm-hmm.
With an estimated value of $26.6 million to the city, which doesn't make sense, and a $30 million project. Now, is $26.6 million, is that the tax capacity? Yeah, I don't know.
I think so, yeah.
Those are two separate numbers. Anyhow, the developers expect to have the money repaid in 10 to 11 years. Well, thank you for your loan. I mean,
wow.
How about you thank the taxpayers for giving you money that if you can't afford to do the project, okay, why are you doing the project in the first place?
If a bank won't loan you the money.
There's probably a reason.
Right. Or maybe it's just that they get a more favorable rate from the city and they save a few bucks by going to the city rather than going to the bank.
Well, either way, it's crony capitalism.
Absolutely. And I hate to say it, but I mean, Robbinsdale has a history of propping up certain businesses over other businesses.
Yes, they do.
And we wrote an article, I don't remember what year it was. I wrote an article about how Travail, they wanted to move from one spot to another spot because they didn't like their landlord and they wanted to open a second restaurant in the same building. And I remember getting flamed over my criticism of that the city shouldn't be loaning money to another business and propping that up when there are other businesses they just let go by the wayside. I mean, they pick and choose their winners. And Travail had been on, I don't know, some Food Network show and some hoity-toity thing. And I don't know. I tried it once.
Well, I still come back to whether it's good or not. I mean, how do you decide what businesses you're going to help and what businesses you're not going to help? And I've never seen any city have any kind of standard that they can explain to you. Crystal, we went through this with the place by your house, a medical building.
Right.
It was like, okay, well, why is that allowed? Why are we subsidizing a new building for them, and they have way more space, I think, than they need.
Yeah, it's not full.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it will be someday, but I don't know. But other businesses, do we help any business who wants to move? Or do only the big, a small business owner's not going to get TIF financing. If I wanted to open up a pizza joint on the corner of whatever and whatever, they're not going to give me any kind of deal to do that.
No, and Crystal is a great example. We went through the city providing money to help because the medical center was in a strip mall in the second floor above
the old tidal wave.
The old Tidal Wave.
Tidal Wave's what I remember.
What was it? It was a video store. It wasn't Blockbuster. It was Hollywood Video.
Yeah, that's what it was after that.
Yeah. Yep. So it was Hollywood Video after that, and then you had the medical Northwest Family Physicians up above that on the second floor, and Crystal helped pay under the old council to build a new medical center, attain the land that houses were sitting on and businesses were sitting on.
The old marina.
Right. Marine repair stuff, yeah.
There was like a Jiffy Lube or something on that corner?
Yes, there was, and there were a couple other things. So Crystal and Hennepin County helped each other out, getting the land and then helping with the cost of constructing the new building, getting them moved in, all that kind of stuff. But how many other businesses got ripped out? There were those over there, plus there in redoing County Road 81, there was like a muffler shop. There were some other things that got completely just ripped out of there. I mean, there was a carpet business. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else in with the carpet business. But you know what sits in that spot where that carpet business was? A drainage pond. I'm glad that is
They're getting
paying
some
off.
Property tax money out of that, aren't they?
Oh yeah, and that drainage pond. I mean, it's not a pond. I mean, it's dry unless it rains a whole ton. Otherwise, it just collects garbage. It's beautiful, let me tell you. So, and again, that's the old council, but that's what cities do. And Robbinsdale has done it too. They helped travail, but they did not. I know when there was a movement to try and save the old theater further down 81,
the terrace,
right? The terrace that they didn't want anything to do with that. So they pick and choose winners all the time, Andrew.
They do. And I love the comments of, I could sit here and go through the money aspect, but folks, your head's going to spin. You're going to fast forward this part if I actually read it. You're just going to have to trust me here. Because I could sit here and explain TIF and explain this money. I'm not even sure I quite have it down 100%. I can explain it generally speaking using a different example, but I think that you people at home are going to change the channel if I sit there and try to explain it. Here's my favorite quote, though.
All right.
You got to quote this Glick lady. The hell is her name? Marcia Glick, the city manager. Boy, Robbinsdale's getting their money's worth out of her. Quote, "The money we are able to use to help them is not the money we have today or at all. It's the money we wouldn't have unless a new building was built and paying higher taxes."
What?
So they don't have the money. The way TIF works is you are leveraging this against a future gain.
Right.
Let me translate that. The increment is paid back by the increase in the value of the property. So if the property is worth 3 times as much now again, that can fluctuate too. I mean, you think of the past 20 years, think of your house, and think of how much it's gone up or down or all around. I mean, you buy a house in 2000 for $100,000. In 2008, it's worth $200,000. In 2011, it's worth $120,000.
Right.
Okay, so why can't that happen here? I mean, why couldn't I understand Hennepin County will assess it as high as they humanly can?
Yes, they will,
or at least the midpoint, because it's a property taxes work off a median. But why? There is a financial risk that goes with a TIF district. And I when I listen to city councils talk, I don't think they get that.
Yeah, I mean, if property values fluctuate. What if we hit another housing bubble? And I think that it's completely possible when you think about
it's not only possible, it is inevitable.
And I'm not. Things could keep on going great with single family housing, but you start to look at all of the high density stuff that they are building, the medium density stuff they are building, townhomes, luxury apartments, assisted living that they can't fill. By the way,
and keep in mind, if there is a housing bubble, that's the kind of stuff that nobody's going to go into.
Right.
Nobody's going to go into luxury housing. Nobody's going to go into homes that are worth $400,000. It's going to be a race to the bottom to get to the 60s Ramblers that are sitting in Robbinsdale, New Hope, and Crystal.
Right. I
mean, we went through this cycle. When I lived in Crystal, I can remember the economic downturn, and it lasted a while. I mean, I'm one. People keep saying, "Oh, we've had, all this prosperity." Well, to be honest with you, I don't think the economy really recovered until about 2012-ish. And quite frankly, the economic growth was fairly pathetic up until the last 2 or 3 years. So I know we have, kind of a cycle in this country of a recession every 10 years. It just, you go back to 1991, 92, you go to the dot-com bubble, you go to the housing bubble, you go to the early years of the Reagan administration and stagflation, which he walked into.
Right.
But you seem to kind of go through this 10-year stretch of there's something that happens. And it's not in every sector of the economy. It never is. But if it's big enough, everybody's buying power is affected by it. But I'm just sitting here thinking, if you created a TIF district 26 years ago, like this is talking about, a 26-year thing, that is what, 1992?
Mm-hmm.
Now think of how much things have gone up, how much things have changed.
Oh,
I mean,
my word.
How many buildings are even still there? I mean, you're talking, think about Crystal alone, whether that's Thriftway, whether that's Walgreens popping up, whether that's a new strip mall being built, whether it's the Crystal Gallery and everything that's come and gone out of there. I mean, there's a handful of things. Cub wasn't there then. I mean, a lot can happen in that amount of time.
Right.
So, but I listened to the casualness to which $2.5 million is given to a financial group by the same people who whine about in affordable housing and corporate welfare and things like that are the same people handing it out. They're the same people.
Right. For luxury housing, expensive luxury housing. But you think that's bad, Andrew?
Yeah, I do.
It is. It is. But I was reading details about this, not out of the Sun Post, but I was looking at Robbinsdale's own website, and they've got 2 projects planned. This is the one that's furthest along. They've approved the TIF financing for this. This is a done deal. It's happening. Yeah. They also have a proposal in the concept phase right now to build where St. Petersburg Restaurant and American Legion are in Robbinsdale. Mm-hmm. And they want to, of course, do mixed use over there with housing over ground floor shops. And they're looking into requesting a tax increment financing note of $7.2 million for that. So we'll have to keep our eye out for that one.
Great.
And maybe if you live in Robbinsdale, you want to go talk to old George Selman or something, and let him know what's going on.
I don't think you'll get anywhere, but
yeah, well,
you can talk.
That's true.
Like I said, I don't think these people understand it all that well. You want to get to some other news?
Yeah,
some
I
other
guess
news
so.
Here, Robbinsdale School District, which we've touched on a little bit. The past couple episodes. Old Patsy Green not seeking re-election. She's been there for quite a long time. I want to say 17, 18 years, I want to say now.
Yeah,
something like
long
that.
Time.
And I've had a grudging respect for her, if that makes sense. I don't agree with the word she says, but she is a very dedicated person to what she believes in, and I have a grudging respect for that, even if I think what that is wrong-headed. But you can tell a lot by somebody's character by what they say on the way out.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when somebody loses. That's where you see character and you see what a person really is like when they don't have to watch what they're saying anymore.
Right.
Nobody's filtering it, or you can tell when somebody's ad-libbing something and when somebody is reading from I can anyway, and I know you can
right.
too. This is what we do. Okay? That's just what I teach people.
Mm-hmm.
Teach people how to do that, so I sure as hell know when I'm hearing it.
So
she made some comments in the Sun Post.
Oh, good.
Okay, and Jay, have you read them?
I have not.
Okay,
This will be new for me.
Okay,
so world, you're going to hear my reactions. Live
and again
on air.
The first thing that she says, I have some problems with, but I don't think she's totally out in left field with what she says at first.
Okay.
She talks about her regrets. Oh, we've got a few. I won't sing this week.
Too late.
The lack of appropriate. Oh, where's the foghorn from the Sutri show? Consistent, equitable funding from federal and state governments and the growing burden of unfunded mandates. Now, when the left talks about consistent, equitable funding, and when I talk about it, they mean two things that aren't in the same hemisphere.
Right.
Okay. Now, what she says about unfunded mandates has some merit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is some truth to that, and I think school districts, though, do a lot of whining and not a lot of doing. And that's, my boss gives me a mandate I don't like, and I don't always have the resources for it, and I can whine about it, or I can do the job I was hired to do. Anyhow. But this next one really bugs me because I'm tired of what I'm paying in taxes or something defining how much I care. It's like this whole idea that a tax cut starves a child or something, or
right.
We've been conditioned to believe certain things that are total hooey. And this next quote, it really irks me. We still have a country and a culture that, interesting grammar, that don't value students or children. Now, do you believe we have a culture that does not value? What would name me a culture? I mean, what is? Now, I know what Miss Green means when she says this. She means we're not paying enough.
Right.
She's not saying that, but that's what she means.
Right. She's not saying that we beat our kids when they come home.
No, or do anything deliberately. She's saying, well, she doesn't have enough of our money.
Yes.
I mean, that's what she means. Now, listen to this. This is where, again, school districts have gone so off the rails of what they are to do, intended to do. We have too many children that go hungry, don't have stable housing, and don't have proper health care.
I say no, that's wrong. These schools give out free breakfasts, free lunches.
Yeah.
You have to be kidding me. In Hennepin County, and I'm sure any county in the metro,
food shelves.
There are food shelves. You can get medical assistance, Minnesota Care. Don't tell me that you can't get health insurance or that you can't get food for your kids. Your kids are being fed by the schools already. It's happening.
Well, I'm just... I don't know. It just bugs me when I get lectured by somebody in government about. I'm sorry. Are there kids dropping dead in Robbinsdale schools of starving to death?
No.
Are kids? Are they bleeding to death in the middle of the school? Are they not treated with health care? Are there a bunch of homeless kids?
No. Well, there might be kids over at Cooper that are dying in the middle of the hallways.
Could be.
That's more like an attack that happens right in the.
There were when I went there, so I'm kidding. And I don't think any of this has anything to do with the school district. I mean, stable housing. I mean, what are we supposed to do? If you have a family, you're not paying for the place you're living in. Should you just be able to stay there forever?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't Patsy Green, was it? It was Sherry Tyrell who wanted to provide housing out of district funds for low-income students.
Right.
Right.
You and I witnessed that.
Yes, we did. We were in the room when she said that, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it kept me quiet for 20 minutes because I didn't know what to say as a result of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand what proper health care has to do with education. This is the problem. It's a twofold problem. We've turned over too much authority to public schools that 40, 50 years ago were none of their business.
Mm-hmm.
And we take every kid and we put a label on them.
Yeah.
This kid's at risk. This kid's minority. This kid's
attention deficit disorder. The
English
EBD.
learning. They're bipolar and they're
Asperger's.
Sociopath. I don't know. We like to label people, and I think that is also troublesome to me because I don't remember any of that when I was in school. I really don't.
No.
I remember the bonehead classes, which nobody's feelings were hurt or anything, but I don't remember a kid being labeled anything. I don't remember my friends being at risk.
No.
And it's this rush to try to put kids in a box where the expectations are lower. Mm-hmm. I mean, we always have to remember that. And there's always an excuse if performance isn't there.
Right.
And then it's it's not equitable funding then. If this kid has a disease, he's worth more money.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's a great point. I mean, they get more funding for special ed kids, for all of that kind of stuff. There's extra funding that comes from the state.
True. I will say that, though, that some of that is mandated, some of that is unfunded. They do get extra money, but not what they're promised.
Right.
They're saying they have a legitimate gripe there. At the same time, I still expect them to do the job. Okay?
Right.
I mean, you can complain all you want. I mean, I'm not in the legislature. Okay, so I mean, I don't see the. I don't know. Folks, we've said it before that the public school system is going to collapse under its own weight.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, it's just going to fall through.
With the rise of internet learning and all that kind of stuff, there's going to be some point in time.
Technology is out there knocking down the barriers. I mean, that's what's happening. That you and I have talked about it here in our show. That 30, 40 years ago, there were 6, 7, 8 companies that controlled who had a voice to the public.
Yeah.
Whether that was CBS, ABC, and NBC, owned by parent companies like Disney, whether that was a handful of major newspapers, which are all owned by the same people, or whether that was something like Clear Channel or NPR or whoever. I mean, you didn't work for one of them, your voice didn't get heard.
Right.
And what's happened is technology has knocked down that barrier to where now almost anybody can be heard. Whether anybody wants to listen is the difference, but
yeah,
with social media, internet, podcasting, whatever, it's broken that monopoly or oligopoly or whatever you want to call it. So, and I think the same thing will happen in education. I think that the unfortunately, the economics aren't there for everyone, but the economics are there for more people than what there used to be, and that's only going to grow,
right?
Not go down. I mean, these people are going to hold on to the 50s, like Ronnie Millsap, as long as they can, but it's just not going to happen. So,
Ronnie Millsap, wow!
Hey, a Ronnie Millsap drop. Come on, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
You know why? Because there's no getting over me. Oh, come on, that's good.
Wow,
that's terrible.
It's funny, the guy who sings for a living doesn't sing on the show, and the one who doesn't is singing all over the place now.
You got me with that Beatles stuff whenever we did that, when I tried to sing about whatever they sing about.
Yeah, that was on the Eden Prairie podcast.
Was it?
Yeah. See, that is why you guys got to listen to these.
And we had to lighten the mood because I was so upset during that. I I was like Sid Hartman on the old sports show. I just went off like crazy.
Well, and it's understandable, though. I mean, these governments keep doing stupid things. I mean, what we're moving into here, it's not just government, but we're going to show how it's happening at a local level as well. But, I mean, this is happening across the board where people are made to feel bad about certain things and forced to change their language in order to accommodate usually not the group that is supposedly the target of the language, but the people who act like they're offended that aren't a part of the group.
Well, I've said before, there were 11 commandments that old Moses brought down from Go Tell It on the Mountain. We just don't talk about the...
That's a different story.
Yeah. There were not 10 commandments, there were 11.
Okay.
And we didn't discover this till the 1990s. But it's called Thou Shall Not Offend. And the offended get to decide what's offensive, which is the 12th commandment, that the offended get to decide what's offensive. So I guess there's 12.
Okay.
And so, I mean, political correctness, I guess, is the topic and how out of control it's getting. Not just locally, but, I mean, we're going to bring it back to the local level. But, I mean, I'll just say, what we're discussing is this business of renaming things, taking figures in history, judging them by 21st century standards, and then using that as the pretext to erase them from history, if that's Because I think that's the ultimate goal here. And I am more cynical than you. I think this all has to do with power. I don't think anybody is really offended. I listen to people talk about this, especially young people, and I can see that if I looked in one of their ears and looked out the other one, I would, see Des Moines or something. They don't know what they're saying is being fed to them by adults.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but there's no other conclusion I can draw. And for me, a lot of this began with two things.
Yes.
This effort to rename Columbus Day.
Yes, to Indigenous Peoples Day.
Whatever that means. I don't know what indigenous means. What does that mean?
People who were born in a certain place. So you're talking your Native Americans.
Okay, I was born here. So
not as a local radio personality once called them mover-inners.
Mover-inners? That wasn't me, was it?
No, okay. That was not you.
Okay. I was about to say, I've said a lot of interesting things on the air, but I don't think that's one.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that I've noticed, I remember seeing these two things for the first time, is going after the name of sports teams.
Right. I mean, like the Cleveland Indians, I mean, somehow they're not going after the name Cleveland Indians yet, but having to remove Chief Wahoo, that is, I don't know, he's kind of like an institution. Were people really that offended?
Nobody was offended by it. It's all the effort to try to tell people they can't say this, they can't say that, you can't celebrate this person or anything else. Or, one of the things I remember, I mean, you brought up that Atlanta Braves is another one. They tried to get the what did they do? The Tomahawk Chop. They tried to get that banned, that you can't do that.
Right.
They've tried to rename their logo. I mean, Braves is a positive thing about Native Americans. Warriors. I mean, those are, I would consider
the Fighting Sioux from North
Dakota.
I
know.
Yeah.
Fighting Irish. I don't see Irish people running around complaining about that.
No, well, maybe that's because they fight.
Well, true. Maybe because,
but yeah, and like Washington Redskins. I mean, and you see Daniel Snyder. You don't hear about it anymore because he just said it's not happening. Stop.
Yeah.
He stood up to them. But if you look into the history of why they're called the Washington Redskins, it actually is a tribute to a Native American that did some very positive things in history.
Well, but I mean, nobody wants to do that. It's easy to just call that a slur,
right,
and end the discussion there. Speaking of Washington, I remember this vividly.
Yeah,
that the Washington Bullets. Remember the Washington Bullets basketball team?
Yes,
they changed their name to the Wizards because the owner Abe Polian. He was publicly pressured to do it, but his reasoning was that he did not want the team's name to be associated with any violent connotations. Well, boy, there's been a real drop in the crime rate since they changed their name from the Bullets to the Wizards, right? I mean, we really, that 10-year-old kid who had a jersey on was really associating a basketball team with killing people.
Yeah.
I mean, don't insult our intelligence here.
Right. I mean, that is. I mean, that is worse than the argument that people would commit suicide by listening to Ozzy Osbourne, or if you listen to heavy metal, you're going to go out and kill somebody. That is a worse argument, that because you wear a shirt that says Bullets, you're going to go out and cause physical harm to someone. Because you support a sports team.
I can't explain it. I can't even. Again, I don't think people really think that. I think this is all about power. Once they get one name change, then they find another target, another target, another target. And if they can't get the state or federal government to do something, Jay, where do they go?
They go to local government. Yeah.
And we're seeing this again. Patrick Henry High School is under attack. And I sat here and I tried to listen to these students, I'll just leave it at that, explain. Okay, let me first say something. This is going to be politically incorrect,
Okay.
but the whole topic is about that.
Right.
I am offended that anyone not born in this country can waltz in here and demand a name change on something. I mean, if I immigrated to another country and then said, well, I'm offended by the name of that school, I'd probably be told to go straddle a goat. I mean, why is it that...
My goodness.
Seriously, it would not be taken seriously anywhere.
Right.
But if someone immigrates here, and when I hear what these students say about Patrick Henry, I wonder if they know anything about him outside of the fact that he supported slavery at one time.
Right.
I mean, I bet they can't name anything else about him.
Probably not. They certainly don't teach it in history anymore.
No, and that leads me to another thing. Where did they get this planted in their heads? You think a bunch of 14 and 15-year-olds out playing video games and, you think they decided to sit in a room and do this?
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody believe that? No, it's being fed to them by somebody, by some outside group, by some activists are filling their head with crap.
Yeah, absolutely. And they say that he supported slavery, but, Patrick Henry, also said, "Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death."
Well, that would be news to anybody. I love this quote by, and I'm in the city pages here, by Samaji Rankin, who is upset that the school that this person goes to for free is upset with Patrick Henry.
Okay.
Said, quote, "Henry not only owned slaves, but did nothing to abolish slavery. To know something's wrong and then do nothing about it when he had the power to speak his mind, I think that's more ugly." Well, Patrick Henry had no power to abolish slavery.
Right.
One person couldn't do that. And at that time, slavery was brought here from other countries. Other countries had slaves too.
Yeah.
It wasn't America was where slavery was created.
No, and that doesn't make it right.
I'm not
it was
saying
wrong.
True.
But there were laws that were put in place. Thomas Jefferson had slaves, and he couldn't release them because of the law. He wasn't in favor of slavery. They were slaves that he had acquired and could not get rid of because of debts that he owed.
Yeah, part of it was from his wife actually had the money.
Yeah.
Martha Jefferson. I think that's where he inherited some of it. Yeah. He was widowed by the time he became president.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Jefferson was somebody in debt quite a bit. But some people, it was a way of life. It's not a proud thing, but it's... I don't get what removing his name accomplishes. It doesn't erase what happened.
No.
So, what are we saying? Are we saying that somebody who lived 250 years ago and supported something you don't like at one time can't have their name? We have to erase them from history?
I will promise you this, that all of you who think that you are setting up this utopia where everybody is going to live together and just be happy and Lucky Charms are going to fall from the sky, and you know what? If we forget where we came from and we do not pay attention to our past and we don't learn from our history, we don't keep the uncomfortable things in our history books, if we don't teach them, if we don't learn them, we will at some point be caught in that snare again.
No doubt about it. History repeats itself.
It does. And the only way to break the cycle is to be educated about it.
Right, and I'll tell you something. I mean, it's also something like, the Confederate flag. I mean, which is also an issue, which, me being a Civil War buff, I consider the Confederacy, first off, the Confederacy stood for more than slavery. I mean, I know the Civil War is portrayed as good guys versus bad guys today.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's portrayed that way, but that's what it's become. It's become a good versus evil, kind of the way it's taught today. But the truth is so much more nuanced than that. And so it's to the point now where CMT banned the Dukes of Hazzard. You want to talk about a non-racist show, a non-racist family, a great show for kids, and the family can all sit down and watch.
Yep.
The Dukes of Hazzard is about as high on that list as any show I can think of.
Yeah.
So now a whole generation can't see it because some jackass is offended by a car.
Yeah.
I mean, now let's bring it back here. You talk about Henry High School.
Yep.
We have Lake Calhoun, which I am going to call it Lake Calhoun.
Yes, I will.
Forever.
As well. I will as well. But so we had the Minneapolis Park Board, which wanted to rename Lake Calhoun to something that nobody can pronounce. I don't know.
I can't pronounce
They
it.
said that it is a Native American name, and I'm not going to be disrespectful of that.
Right,
but,
that's why I don't want to say it, because I don't want to mispronounce it.
Right.
I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't. You could spell it.
My partially, I'm.
Hey, you're part Cherokee, right? So
I am,
you can say
but
it,
I'm still gonna, because it's not a Cherokee name. Not that I speak Cherokee, and that doesn't give me a license to massacre it. But my best try, so that the listeners at home can figure this out. Bide Makaska.
Bide Makasa.
Ska. Yeah. That is as close as I'm going to get.
Okay.
And I'm not, not flippantly saying that, but it just confounds my mind why we would take Lake Calhoun. Everybody knows, Lake Calhoun. People know less about John C. Calhoun.
They know nothing about John C. Calhoun.
Right.
I listen to Marion Green talk, and I'm embarrassed at how little she knows.
Mm-hmm.
And I even disagree with Jeff Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at NPR News here from November 28th, 2017. And the county board, by the way, voted 4-3. There were 3 dissents.
Wow.
Jeff Johnson being one, but he says John C. Calhoun was a miserable person whose views on certain things I find repugnant. But this doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't change history. It doesn't change society. It accomplishes nothing other than further dividing us. Now, I agree with the back half of that. I do not agree with the first half.
Okay.
I disagree with John C. Calhoun vehemently. Okay.
Yeah.
On slavery being a positive good. He did say that in a speech back in the 1830s, so 180 some odd years ago. But does anybody really know anything about Mr. Calhoun outside of his defense of slavery?
That's all that matters anymore.
But I mean, I wonder if I brought Marion Green in here, Miss Anti-Smoking, Anti-Vaping.
Yeah.
I wonder if she could tell me anything. What was his middle name? What state was he from? What did he serve? What was his, other than being vice president?
Right.
Which is given, but what else? Okay, I'm going to explain it. Okay,
Yeah.
John Calhoun was his political views shifted a lot in his lifetime, and this is where I have. Well, let me just say it first. Under President Monroe, he became the War Department head.
Okay.
And he set about, this is after the War of 1812, and we got shellacked in that war.
Yeah.
We got defeated. I know that it's considered a stalemate, but let me tell you something.
Yeah.
The British were just tired of us and just went home.
Right.
I mean, they burned Washington. I mean, we got slaughtered in this war. Calhoun did much to rebuild and modernize the Army. America had no Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Under John C. Calhoun, we had a Navy.
Yes.
We had no standing army. Under John Calhoun, we had a standing army. We really didn't have one
Yeah.
before him. He actually was a nationalist in the first part of his career. He voted in the House of Representatives. He voted for tariffs, even though the South was an importer. He was from South Carolina, not an exporter. But he expected the South to industrialize. And he has writings where he justifies his vote that we're going to protect the industries because I see those jobs coming to South Carolina. Now, when that didn't materialize and the South stayed agrarian and they stayed dependent on exports, he, I'll say, changed his mind, and you couldn't change your mind much further. See, this is a part in American history where I consider we had three political parties. We had what's called the Whig Party, which were Henry Clay, Daniel Webster, people like that opposed President Jackson.
Yeah, and actually, I think it was the first governor of Minnesota, but it was one of the first three governors when we were still a territory, was from the Whig Party.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they were. They were around. The Kansas-Nebraska Act kind of destroyed the party.
Right.
But
Millard Fillmore.
But,
yes.
If you look at... he became somebody who believed in something that's not taught very much, called nullification.
Yeah.
That the federal government, that the states had the authority to rein the federal government in. Now, this partly was Thomas Jefferson's idea from the Alien and Sedition Acts of 1798. I don't agree with Calhoun's version because he wanted every state to just do whatever they wanted. And
right.
Jefferson proposed, I think, a majority or a supermajority could nullify a federal law. But how many people know that this was a man who stood up against a strong, tyrannical federal government? And said, no, states should be able to control what the federal government does or doesn't do.
Yep.
And that's not talked about with him. Calhoun had much to do with the annexation of Texas when he was Secretary of State. That didn't happen until President Polk, but President Tyler laid the groundworks.
Yeah.
And when Calhoun was Secretary of State, much to do about... Now, he wanted to add a slave state, I'll be blunt, but, our expansion, this guy helped it along, spreading America from, the view of that we wanted, which was to go from sea to shining sea.
Absolutely.
And I just feel like the only thing anybody knows about, in fact, he was considered one of the great senators along with Webster and Clay, the triumphant or whatever they were called. And he died during the Compromise of 1850. He was standing there arguing for his, I think he had tuberculosis, but he died fighting for what he believed in, as wrong-headed as some of it is. But I wonder how many people have done any research or anything beyond just that he supported slavery.
Right.
I mean, this man spent his life serving his state and his government. There's no evidence that he was corrupt in any way. So it seems like it's all boiled down to one issue, and that defines you.
That's kind of the way things are today, though. It's like they find the one thing that they don't like about you, and that defines you. That's your legacy. And that is really unfair, that people are more nuanced than that. And I think that, we make it too simplistic, and somebody could do something amazing and still be human. I mean, people are flawed. That they are. I mean, I know we're pretty close as it gets to, the real deal, but just kidding, guys. Andrew has tons of flaws. But the fact that people try to paint you into a corner to distance you, to marginalize you because of one thing. I mean, that's just kind of modern day. I mean, that's how they do things, you know.
Well, and let me just show how out of hand I think this can get. Even out in Anoka, there was a name change of a school.
Mm-hmm.
Ramsey Middle School. I don't know what it changed to. I don't have it in this article in the Southwest Journal. But it is named for Alexander Ramsey, and he was the first governor of the Minnesota Territory, the second governor of the state. He gained, I don't know that notoriety is the right word, but he had a role in what was called the Dakota War of 1862. He was there was an uprising of the Sioux Indians up there, and he did quite a bit to put that down. And it's questionable whether he, broke a treaty or something like that. But of course, the U.S. government, because we were a territory,
right,
there were different rules in place and all that. But because of that, he got his name removed from a middle school. And this is just another person who's probably was following orders. And by the way, he was acquitted of fraud charges. I should add that also. So, I think that it's questionable whether he, was this monster that he's portrayed as now.
Right.
But again, even out in Anoka, this isn't something that's just sitting in Minneapolis. This isn't something that where just the loony left is sitting there. This is happening there too. And then, Jay, I'm gonna take it a step further here in our remaining time.
Okay.
I looked around the state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And thought of names of places.
Ooh. Are we going to do a game show?
No, not really. Maybe a little Family Feud.
Okay.
But I came up with 5 counties in Minnesota.
Yes.
And there are more. I just picked a few here.
Okay.
You know where Polk County is?
Yes.
Do you know who that's named after?
I would assume James J. Polk.
James Knox Polk.
Oh.
Knox is his middle name.
Yes.
The 11th president of the United States.
Yes.
A slaveholder.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things about James K. Polk. I mean,
yeah.
He was the only Speaker of the House ever to be president. He was the governor of Tennessee. I mean, there's a million things you can talk about Mr. Polk. But we have Polk County named after him. So under this, we should rename it to a Native American name, right?
Or something.
Something. You've heard of Douglas County.
Yes.
Do you know who that's named after?
I assume not Frederick Douglass.
Although he would be a great man to name something. I would absolutely support that.
Absolutely.
His Douglas
But
has
I'm just
2
saying, I assume that it's not based on the time frame and all of that. Yes.
It is Stephen Arnold Douglas, the senator from Illinois.
Yeah.
The author of the Kansas-Nebraska Act that broke the Missouri Compromise of 1820 and expanded slavery north of the 3630 line.
Okay.
Douglas County, where Alexandria is.
Right. And there's also a Douglas County in Wisconsin.
Yes,
that's where Superior is.
So there's another bad guy. Bad guy. You mentioned him earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Fillmore
County. The man who signed the Fugitive Slave Law.
Yeah.
Into act. Now, of course, Millard Fillmore did 5 million other things.
Yeah.
He did.
He was the only... wasn't the only president, I guess, never elected. Ford also was never elected. There were some of those, but
Zachary Taylor died.
Zachary Taylor, yeah. And so with Fillmore, I know he was just kind of seen as the accidental president.
No, there's several of those.
Yeah, but I know he has special notoriety as being like one of the most useless presidents ever to fill the seat.
Well, we did have Jimmy Carter. Pope County. Do you know Pope County's named after?
Not the Pope. No.
Test your Civil War history.
Yeah?
John Pope, Civil War general, who was the head of the Sioux Uprising put-down that I just talked about.
Ooh.
After losing the Second Battle of Bull Run, President Lincoln sent him out to be the supreme commander out of those forces in what was called the Dakota Territory, because Minnesota was a state, South Dakota weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Todd County. Take a guess at Todd County.
Suppose not Mary Todd Lincoln.
You're close.
Really?
Her cousin.
Oh.
Man named John Blair Smith Todd, who also was an Indian fighter, also was in the Mexican War, fighting those those disadvantaged Hispanics who were just trying to come here for to work at the car wash.
Right.
But also quite a controversial figure for his day, or for today.
Right.
Not his day. His day it was normal. So that's just an example of things here in Minnesota named after people who would fail the political correctness, which probably everyone, 99% of the people living back pre-Civil War would probably fail the political correctness test.
Right.
And I wonder how crazy this is going to get.
Well.
I mean, is a president, somebody like Franklin Roosevelt, who was not sympathetic to unions or necessarily civil rights. In fact, there's much evidence that Roosevelt stepped in and stopped it. Japanese internment.
Right.
Is his name going to be eliminated from
I don't think so, because he was a Democrat. So I really don't see them coming after him because
it's an example
he's a folk hero. I mean, the progressives laud this guy because of all of the programs that he set up, and we owe a lot of
all the programs to create Democratic voters.
Yeah.
I mean, 1940, when he ran for a third term, we had 18% unemployment, so it sure as hell didn't work.
So we almost never hear about the Japanese internment camps because they don't want to focus on that. They want to focus on all the programs.
True, and I think there was an irrational fear in this country that the Japanese could invade the United States.
Yeah.
I think it was irrational. I think it wasn't going to happen. But I could understand how that fear could create something like that.
Right.
I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying it was right. Reparations were paid to these people directly. So obviously we admitted that was the wrong thing to do. But I think in a world war against the kind of enemies we were fighting, and in some cases teaming up with,
yes,
I think a little fear went a long way. So, but I mean, are we going to get to the point where, anybody who a Supreme Court justice who dissented on Brown v. Board, or who dissented on Roe v. Wade, or who supported Plessy v. Ferguson, or are they in jeopardy as well? I mean, you'd have to figure they are.
I might take it a step further, and I am going to go out on a limb here. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I almost believe that if you're conservative, or especially if you're a white male conservative, you probably stand a good chance of coming under that kind of fire for some reason or another, because we have seen the things that we stand for, whether that is, being anti-abortion, right. Whether, that is religious liberty, things like that. The hammering that those have gotten, not only in the press, but with liberal activists. So I can only assume that, if we are ever in a position where the other side gets to have their say, they will remove.
Well, they get to have their say. They just don't have the voting power right now to do it.
Right.
But I mean, are we going to remove George Washington from the $1 bill. I mean, the father of our nation.
I mean, if
we
they
wouldn't
had
have
the
a country
voting power,
without George Washington.
Right.
Flawed human being as he was. I mean, we wouldn't have a nation without him.
Right.
He's that important.
Right. Well, I mean, but you've seen it, though, too. I mean, where liberal activists have tried to drive places like Chick-fil-A out of town. I mean, just even over here in St. Louis Park, when they tried to open over at Knollwood, there were protesters there protesting the opening of Chick-fil-A. So if they can push businesses out of town, what's happened with Hobby Lobby? You know, if they can push anything out of the public consciousness, out of the realm of visibility, they will do it.
They're trying to shut them up. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. They're saying they don't have any freedom of speech.
Mm-hmm.
The people who own those businesses don't have only their views. I've said this before. The most intolerant people on the face of the earth are on the political left.
Mm-hmm.
The most you will never run into more intolerant people on the face of the earth. Yet they prance around as though they are God's greatest gift to humanity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I almost want to laugh, but if you agree with them, then they're tolerant of you.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I mean, the reason we bring this up is local governments are going to start doing this. They already have.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it going to stop?
Yeah.
Is Polk County going to be renamed? Fillmore County? Douglas County? I mean, how many people know? How many people you think live in Polk County know who it's named after? How many high school graduates at Henry High can name me anything about James Knox Polk?
Yeah, probably not much.
Probably not a thing. How many adults can?
Yeah.
Not too many. So why would he be the target of something? Again, it's to show that power. That they have the power to shut you up and remove something. And you're right. You see this too. People going after advertisers, things like that, to try to get someone to shut up.
Yep, but it doesn't work both ways. You know, a perfect example has been this whole Roseanne Barr thing. You know, what she said wasn't good. She's apologized for it. She's come off as very broken and really sorry, but she's still being driven into the ground. But yet, then you have somebody like Samantha Bee who comes out and says what she says.
Or Peter Fonda.
And oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Well, I guess they're sorry.
Their movies get released. Everything gets, there is a double standard. And since when was Roseanne known as a conservative?
Exactly.
I never knew that.
No.
When did she become the voice of conservatives here? Who anointed her that?
No,
I mean,
I think she's a little more libertarian.
Probably. But I mean, I listen, what she said is said every day on The View.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not justifying it either. I'm saying, why is it that one person can call for the death of the president's son, who's like 13 years old?
Yeah.
Barron Trump,
so.
he's something like
Maybe
that.
he's younger than that.
He could be.
But yeah.
But I mean, that's the only kid he has with the first lady.
Right.
How is that not calling for his kid to be killed?
Yeah.
I'm crazy.
I
and I
know.
think the liberals are they just dismiss that. Well, that's just another nut. But I think it's become so normalized that you can't even shock people anymore.
Right.
I mean, I'm wondering on a daily basis whether President Trump's going to live through his term. I mean, Maxine Waters is out there inciting people to attack him and his administration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if she were a private citizen, she could be charged with a felony for that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I walked out in the street and I said, hey, go kill, I'm inciting something to happen, I can get charged with that.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's...
So how the Secret Service has not paid her a visit yet, I don't know.
That's right. If I was on the radio and called for something... Imagine you and I calling for President Obama to be...
anything,
which I would never do.
Right.
I don't like him, didn't vote for him, but I don't want the guy. Guy has a family. I don't want him killed. So it's just it's outrageous. But unfortunately, when you point out bad behavior, a lot of times what's thrown back in your face is bad behavior of somebody else.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, so-and-so said this. I'm like, well, that doesn't make what I said any better, or what I said about somebody. I mean, so it kind of just goes to who can go the lowest.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right, though. I mean, if you are a white male, you are a target. I mean, it's warfare on you. We can mention other things, and we'll just close up here, but Pledge of Allegiance is something that's, being attacked. In God we trust, being attacked, things like that. And so on and so forth. I mean, there's all these examples of trying to take God out of the country. You can't say it in public.
Right.
Can't say the word. You can't. You can if you're. I know this from people who work there. I probably shouldn't say this, but Hennepin County provides praying rooms for people who are of the Muslim faith.
When I was a teacher in Minneapolis for a short stint, they also provided that option.
Yeah, so why is, we did that for Christians and there'd be an uproar. Oh, you're and again, First Amendment's something nobody gets either. Nobody gets the meaning, why it's there, what the intent was. It's all just twisted to fit somebody's politics. But, that's for another week. We've gone long enough on this.
Yeah.
Coming to a city near you. You live in Douglas County. Stephen Arnold Douglas, who's
you
the
might
little
be living
giant.
in M&M County real soon.
You could be.
Yep.
Very possible. Why don't we just not name counties?
There we go. County
one.
Yeah.
But then who's one and who's two? And there's somebody
right.
They're getting a pissing contest about that.
Yeah, you don't want somebody saying they're number one. They're all tied. They're all special. You go county A through Z, and then would start over at A, B, B, C, C, once you hit the 26th county, obviously. So it's a place like California. Maybe you would have county Q, 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 but...
Yeah, it'd be Q4.
Yes. Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, exciting podcast for you today. Wow. Not every day do you get to tune in and listen to people talk about Millard Fillmore, President Taylor, James Cape Holk,
Stephen A. Douglas.
Oh, wow.
Bet you didn't know about Todd County. You were pretty close.
I was pretty close.
John
Were you surprised?
Pope? I wonder if anybody out there knew who John Pope was other than me.
Well, put it down in the comments if you do, and no looking on the internet.
I don't believe it.
You make a snap decision and say yes or no right now down there in the comments.
Look up the second Bull Run.
Yep. Oh, fun stuff. Well, that's about all the time we got. This is a trend that is going to keep going until people stand up and do something. I mean, if the people... This came... The Calhoun thing came through the Minneapolis Park Board. We sit and we preach week in and week out about filling in the spots on advisory commissions to the city council. If there had been conservatives that outnumbered the liberals in the Minneapolis Park Board, this never would have happened.
In Hennepin County, too.
Yeah. Yep. So you need to get to your city before they start changing stuff, before they want to tear down history so that nobody remembers it anymore, so that we can call out what is bad and remember it, so that we can call out what is good and learn from that as well. You have to get on a board. A park board, a curriculum commission, a health and human services board, whatever it is.
Legislative Action Coalition, PTA.
Yeah.
You name it.
You have to do it. You have to get together as a community, and you got to do it because that's the only way to beat this stuff back. We've had podcasts about all these foundations pouring millions of dollars into things. You beat that back by having principled people on the city council, county commissions, school boards, and on all the advisory boards that support those organizations. That's how you do it. And you get rid of anybody who follows the money instead of follows their principles. So how do you do that? Now, if you see those things happening in your community, what do you do about it? You get a hold of us, Community Solutions Minnesota. And you can do that by emailing us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com, and we'd love to help you. Anytime we come across stuff like this, we tweet about it, we Facebook about it, we Instagram about it, we write about it in the blog.
I think our streets in Minneapolis get pretty sick of us.
Our streets, Minneapolis, and Bike Wrath, Minneapolis. Yeah, I think they're pretty sick of us by now. That's another story for another time. Oh, boy. Anyways, we're out there telling the story, and we want to be able to tell your story too. We are here for you, and we're here to help you. So let us know how we can help you, because this is why we're here. We're the only people in Minnesota that do this. So that's our job. We've done our job. We've given you the information. We've done our research, and now it's up to you to go share it with everybody you know so that they know exactly what is happening. We've done our part, Minnesota, and we love you. But now it's your turn to get to work.